Hi, this is Lee Coulter coming to you again on Transform Talks. And today we're going to talk about automation as a component of culture. And to truly scale an automation program really requires it not be a thing you do, but be installed into the culture of the organization. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about what does that mean. But I want to use an analogy. I worked at GE during the Welch era when Jack came out and made the very bold public statement about the organization's commitment to Six Sigma. And there's a very, very close overlap analogy between that event and if you looked at organizations that were successful with Six Sigma and those who were not. And of course, we kind of think about continuous improvement now, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, well, it's, it's literally written into our values, continuous improvement. And so for automation to really be successful and for it to scale and be effective as a transformer of organizations, it has to become a component of culture. Installing automation, or really anything, as a component of your culture, you can argue that culture is simply the collective behavior of a group or leadership. Most definitively, the collective behavior of leadership really sets the tone, sets the stage for what is culture. And it's pretty easy going into any organization and listening for what are people talking about. What do people know to be true? What do people know to be priority, to be a part of the culture? And how do you move something new like automation into becoming a component of culture, as opposed to just something that happens over here in the corner? But really, how does it become a part of your thinking in everything that you do? And this is really, it comes down to the fundamental tenets of change management that have been studied by business schools for the last 30 years. Over the last 30 years, business schools around the world have studied successful transformations of business and have really come to understand the fundamental dynamics of change management. And it's no different for automation. And a lot of the basic tenets of change management apply directly to automation. Starting at the top, is there executive sponsorship? Is there a voice that says we want to make this a part of how we do everything we do? That we bring automation thinking into every initiative, into every part of our organization, and look for ways to optimize process for better outcomes and less effort and reducing friction. So this really becomes about messaging from the top. It comes down to investment, right? There's an investment component here, and I'm not talking necessarily about financial investment, but an investment by leadership to promote and sponsor the inclusion of automation thinking into everything that you do. This really means having people there representing the idea of automation, the capability of automation, and having those people embedded in the teams that are driving change across all the initiatives in your enterprise. Not surprisingly, in all of the studies of successful transformation and a shift in culture, there are resistors. There are active resistors and there are passive resistors. And overcoming that resistance to change is no different for any other sort of change initiative, but with automation, it comes with an emotional charge. So people have a natural set of assumptions about what automation means for the organization. what it's going to be used to do. And of course, the natural emotional reaction is to take the most negative view of things and really assume the worst. In the absence of a dialogue or a narrative to the contrary, people are really going to say, oh, well, the robots are coming to take my job, right? That's just going to be the assumption here. And it's important for an effective implementation of automation and for enterprise scaling of automation that messaging is developed and that people have proof points that they can see that match the narrative. So example would be if we say that we're not using automation to reduce our labor force, but in fact to improve the kinds of work that people are doing and to get them more engaged in stuff that doesn't have the digital drudgery that drowns us in almost every part of our business. So when people hear that, they're going to then look for, do I have proof points for that? So do I see a change to the upskilling, to career ladders? Do I see changes to tuition reimbursement? Do I see courses being offered? Do I know somebody who has had a significant change to their role, who has then been trained and is now doing a different and higher order level of work? These are the sorts of things that have to match for people to begin to believe what's being said about the intention of transforming business with automation. Absolutely essential to any automation transformation program is including somebody to develop communications. And it might be surprised or might not to find out how many different places you need to have communications originating. And the old adage 7 times 7 ways definitely applies here. So what the executive leadership team is saying about automation is important. Is automation being held up as it achieves the results we all know that it can and does? Is it being publicized? Are these use cases being publicized? Are the improvements to customer service or the reduction of friction in our supplier base, the increase in net promoter score because our call center agents are now able to spend more quality time with our customers? These things and publishing these things, getting them out there, having these as stories available for management to share and talk about, and for it to be on the company intranet portal, and so on and so forth. These are really important elements. And one of the things that people often forget as they're looking to scale an automation program or looking to transform the paradigm of their culture to one that includes automation is the importance of messaging. This is literally, it's a marketing and communications activity. Needing to have, as an example, dialogue guides for frontline managers, right? So as we look at the work that's being done across the enterprise and people hear automation, particularly at the front lines, they have certain assumptions. So how do we arm and prepare and train our frontline supervisors and managers so that they can have a dialogue with their people, very explicit and open and honest? And when you do that, now you're beginning to change the culture. You're having a really honest dialogue about what it means for that team. And in the absence of that dialogue guide and preparation and some role playing, those folks are not equipped to have that conversation. And in the absence of having that conversation, the folks on the front lines are going to develop their own narrative that fits the data points that they have, that fits their reality. And that reality is going to include fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or FUD. And overcoming FUD is absolutely essential, and communications is a key way to do that.